Good morning, Sister Pauline, and good morning to everyone at home.
Good morning, Aaron, and good morning to everyone at home.
How are you today, Sister?
I'm very well, really. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Yes, good.
So, my first question today is, tell us about your journey to become a Josephite and what drew you to it.
I guess my journey started fairly young. When I was at home on the farm, I had time, I suppose, and the scenery around me to come to some sort of sense very early on that God was real and that I had a real sense of God's presence. So that would have been I suppose, the underlying reason why I chose this vocation, even though at a young age I would never have been able to articulate that. I just remember at some stage during my younger years, late primary, early secondary, saying to myself that whatever I did in life, it would be for others. Again, I wouldn't have been able to say exactly what it was, but I had this sense of being very grateful for life, grateful for family, grateful for what I had, and that I wanted in some way to be able to give that back to God in some way. And again, I wouldn't have used those words then. Okay.
Sure, great. Yeah. Thanks, Sister. So, how long have you been a Josephite for, Sister?
42. I had my Jubilee, my 40th Jubilee a couple of years ago. So it's like 42 years now.
Wow.
A Josephite.
Wow, that's a
long time.
Good run. And so for everyone at home as well, what is a Josephite? What does that mean to be a Josephite? Yeah,
it's a sort of a question for me, I suppose. What is a Josephite? Well, Josephite, of course, is the pet name, if you like, for the Sisters of St. Joseph, Joeys and all of that. But it means that we, in some way, have embodied the charism of Mary MacKillop. Now, lots of other religious, do similar works and all of that, but I suppose it's like something to do with identifying with the character, if you like, of Mary MacKillop and the character of the sisters that I've grown up with, because I was educated by the Sisters of St. Joseph. Yeah.
What would you say those now this is not on your pre-prepared, so apologies, Sister, for putting you on the spot.
Yes.
What would you say that charisms are of and their character are? What are some of the things that underpin?
Well, I suppose one that since Mary MacKillop became Australia's first saint, one of the ones that I guess people would really be able to identify with would be the one about never seeing a need without doing something about it. So it's always being on the lookout to help those who are less fortunate, whatever that means in life. And also probably the underdog a fair bit would, come under that consideration too. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Sister. So, 40 odd years or so.
Yes.
What are some of the challenges and successes that you've encountered over the years?
The first thing that I remember as being a challenge was having worked for nearly 4 years and then entering the convent, being able to drive a car and have your own money and all that. So then when all that sort of is not there, that was a big challenge. And also I think, just going back into study, because when I first went away I had to do like 2 years in one. A lot of us did. In New South Wales, we sort of had to do that in order to get sixth form, that it was called then. And and then I suppose learning the ropes of being a sister like in the novitiate. And while I kind of loved it and all that, but yeah, there were challenges along the way because there were certain rules that, you know, we hadn't heard of before, but we had to follow. But more like as I grew into my role and into my commitment, I should say, more than role, of being a religious, I think the challenge all the time is how am I, you know, acting out of that commitment? Not just acting out, but how am I staying faithful to my commitment? I think that's a challenge always. Yeah.
Great. And what about some of the, I guess, successes or little moments of grace? And
Okay, yes, that I like that rather than successes, because all the way along, I suppose our successes come in by way of the people that we're with and the children. And when I was a teacher, I think the most precious time for me and the graces and gifts that I think I received was when the, you know, say a year 3 class got something, you know, you understood they learned something, and also just the whole sacramental area when I was in charge of that period of time at school, and taking little ones along and they're just so spiritual at a certain age, especially, you know, when they're young, and just being very conscious that in some ways I had a chance to give them an opportunity to come closer to God. So that for me was probably good. And then also when I changed over from in ministry from being a primary school teacher to working in the parish as a person on a team when I was in Kalgoorlie and Boulder first up, the people that I met and were privileged to be part of their lives, that to me I think is one of the greatest gifts that I have received.
sounds like a very special journey that you've had, and
Yes,
special
it
experiences.
has been, yes, and very humbling as well.
So, Sister, you now work for the Diocese of Bunbury,
Yes,
and you look after the catechists
yes.
across the diocese.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the work that you do and what's involved.
Yes, the work that I do now as a coordinator of the catechists here is to recruit people who wish to become involved in that whole ministry of being catechists. When I first started out, I was going to many of the parish groups and parish councils and speaking at masses. I still do speak at some masses, not as often though, but and just trying to get over the point of the importance of having catechists for our children and young people that are not in the Catholic education system, yeah. And I suppose in other countries, this is what I found anyway, in other countries the profile of the catechist is much more evident than it is here, I find, in our diocese anyway. I'm not sure of other dioceses. So part of me really wants to lift that profile of the catechist. And some of the things that I do, just to get back onto the question you asked me, is that I try to meet people both informally and formally, and just, I suppose, invite in a personal kind of way too, rather than always having to speak, say, from the pulpit. Because I just think when you get to know people and I think sometimes you see in people the gifts that they may have, and they just need, you know, to be encouraged and invited to come along and join it. Yeah.
And there's real need for catechists out there in our diocese, isn't there?
Yes, there is. In a lot of our places, of course, a lot of the parishes, they're very small, especially in our country, and so I'm really conscious too that you're speaking to the same sort of people in the parishes that are already involved, and that's sort of the hard bit. But I do know too that others, you know, within the parish can be, they can be people too to invite others to try, you know, to be a catechist or whatever else is going in the parish. So sometimes it's just a way of, maybe for me, to suggest to someone else that you might like to invite them along or whatever. Yeah.
And so maybe eventually we'll have some young people that are catechists in the diocese. What do you think?
Oh yes, I do think that, and it'd be really nice too sometime for. I'd really like to, I suppose, try out the young people. Probably try out's not the right word, but maybe, you know, talk to some of these young people at the schools sometime and say, you know, this is what's on offer, and it's a really important way of us sharing our faith. Yeah.
So if you're interested in being catechist, there'll be a link in the video below, in the description, that will lead you to the diocesan website, and
Yes.
Sister's details are on there and you can get in contact.
And I think if I could just say one more thing on that, Aaron, that is, in becoming a catechist, because of some of the units of work you do on spirituality and theology and scripture and liturgy and so on, you are also nourishing your own faith and deepening that understanding of what it means to be a Christian, let alone a person as part of the parish, you know. Yeah.
Sure, great. Okay, finally, Sister, here's a bit of a big one for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have one piece of advice to give our young people watching at home today, what would it be?
That's a big one. I think for me, it would be to say to all those young people out there that it's really important throughout your life to have a person, whether it's one of your parents or both, or a significant person to stay close to and be able to speak to about things that are meaningful for you in your life.
Great. Thank you, Sister, for that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone at home for joining us. This is one of our first interviews. We're hoping to do a few more, and thank you very much again for Sister Pauline for sharing a bit of her story with us.
Yep.
If you want to find out more about the Catechist, like I said, the link will be below in the description. Until then, see you next time.